Hi, I'm Mary Greendale, and welcome to our annual series of interviews of candidates for local offices. The town election is May 24th. We have contests for Select Board, Finance Committee, Planning Board, and School Committee. I am interviewing all these candidates. I have prepared questions specific to each board or committee. Each candidate will respond to the same questions for that office. This allows voters the chance to compare the candidates' approaches and thinking according to the issue. These videos will run a maximum of 25 minutes and will be available on HCAT's website, on HCAT's YouTube channel, on our Facebook page. So let's get started. So let's begin. I'm going to introduce you to Hayley Fetrow, who is running for the Finance Committee. Hayley, welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, let's just get started here because we've got questions. So please tell us about yourself briefly, occupation, how long you've been here, that kind of thing.
Sure. So currently I am the Executive Director of the Medway Housing Authority. I also operate a consulting business where since 2010 I've been providing management and financial technical assistance to housing authorities. I am an attorney. I went to Suffolk Law School. I have a master's from BU in urban affairs. I've lived in Holliston since 2011, and I live here with my husband. I have 3 children right now that are in the Holliston Public Schools. My mom lives with us as well. And currently I am the chair of the board of the Holliston Housing Authority, and I've been on that board since 2018.
Okay. They're really lucky to have you with that kind of experience, I must say, because it's not always the case,
Sure.
you know, to have that kind of depth of experience. I used to work for the housing agency.
Oh, okay.
Housing, yeah. Anyway, so why did you choose to run for this one? I think it's pretty obvious, but okay, no. Why did you choose to run for the Finance Committee?
Sure, it's interesting. So I started with the Housing Authority because that obviously, to your point, was in my comfort zone. I felt like it was a way that I could start getting involved in the community in a way that I was comfortable with and I understood. And I felt like, given my experience, I really could make a difference and help the residents at the Housing Authority, and I think that I've done that. It was interesting to come from the city of Boston and come to a town. It took a little bit to understand the town meeting style of government and how all that works. It was interesting to either watch the town meetings online or on HCAT at the time, or attend a couple, and really seeing how the FinCom, how they operate and how they're presenting the recommended budget and really their place in the process. And during COVID, everything was on Facebook, and they started showing the meetings even on Facebook, which is even easier than HCAT.
Yeah.
And so I really felt like it was an opportunity to listen and learn, and I've taken that the past couple of years, and so I felt like now was the time I felt comfortable with stepping out and pushing myself outside the comfort zone a little bit and trying this.
You must have to do budgets and stuff within the housing agency.
I do, yeah. And so that's a little bit of my experience there, yeah.
Okay. So what are the skills and experience that you think you'll provide to the Finance Committee?
Right, so similar to what you just said. So right now, currently as the Executive Director and as a consultant for multiple other housing authorities, I'm responsible for creating and managing, presenting all of their budgets. The budgets are a mix of federal subsidies, state subsidies, tax credits, grants that they've received. All of those funding streams come with restrictions, compliance needs, and as an attorney that helps as well. And so I manage all those, and I feel like that level of experience will allow me to participate in this style of government. I think also for me as a consultant, I'm someone that has the ability as an attorney to really review an audit report, review a budget, and I can tell you what's going wrong. I can tell you what's going right, and I have done that a lot. There's a lot of times that housing authorities will contact me because they're financially troubled or on the cusp of it, and we spend a lot of time right off the bat just looking at their audit reports and their budgets before I even talk to them to see what's really happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, what do you think are the 2 biggest funding issues? And I'm going to limit you to 2 just because, yeah, there are more, but
Sure.
you can pick 2. And what do you think your solutions would be? And what do you think will go wrong if we don't do them?
It's interesting, before the school committee's presentation, I would have immediately said that the things that I'm looking at are the OPEB trust allocation that happens annually, and then the wastewater treatment connection. Now, after watching the school committee's presentation, I'm really concerned about the full-day kindergarten in the next couple of years. As a parent in the community, I don't have children that age anymore, but for the quality of life of living in our town, I was happy to see the initiative that was taken using the ARPA funds in that equity category to get over the hurdle of the implementation of full-day kindergarten. But also, as a parent, I assumed we were good, that had been done and we could all rejoice in having full-day kindergarten. But watching the school committee's presentation, they brought up the point that in the next couple of years, when those ARPA funds are exhausted, we're right back to having, issues to address. And so that's something that I certainly feel like will impact the quality of our town. It concerns our children, and it concerns who we are as a town, really. And so that's something for me that I think needs to be immediately addressed and discussed. I can appreciate if we can already future things out to know when we're going to run out of those funds. We need to start planning now and figuring out a way so that when we get there, it doesn't become another town issue that we all have to start talking about our children about. Really, it's a funding mechanism that we have to figure out. The second issue for me really is the connection of the wastewater treatment plant to the downtown. We have a new business in town that I got to meet with this week. I went down to meet with the individual who opened a day spa in the center of town.
Yeah, right.
And she's lovely, and it was interesting to hear about the challenges that she's faced. She filed her applications in December, and there's so many other hurdles she had to get through as a service-oriented business, not having sewer. And it made me think about the type of businesses that we want to attract to our town and what we want to bring in, and who are we missing out on because we don't have that level of flexibility. And so I think that for me, those are two major issues that from a funding perspective we need to address. And if we don't, again, the quality of life of who we are in Holliston, I think is impacted.
Okay, well, that's why we have a lot of auto body and auto repair and that kind of stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how it all happens.
Sure.
When people ponder, why do we have so many garages downtown?
Right.
Well, highest
There's
and
a
best
limit.
used.
Exactly.
So at any rate. So there's never going to be enough money to pay for anything or everything, and let alone pay for the things that we'd really like to have, let alone what we need to have. So when you're faced with a choice between two very compelling issues and needs, and we've got one in front of us this year, how do you go about making your decisions?
I think for me, it really is about the quality of life of our town. It doesn't necessarily mean the quality of life for me, but for the town as a whole. I think that isn't always necessarily the parks. It's not always necessarily schools. It really can mean sewers, right? It can mean who we are as a town. And so I think, to your point, that this year it's been a compelling decision. You feel for the school committee members, you feel for Chief Stone, and they're on, last Tuesday when they were discussing the budget, they're on there and, pleading their case, and you feel for them. And so I think for me, you really need to come down to, as a town, what type of quality of life, how do you want to feel about living in your town? And really for me this year, the right choice I was supportive of was with the maintenance crew, because I think that is an impactful decision that really can prove out over the next couple of years and increase, the quality of life in our town.
So what is it that goes into that? That's that's the decision that you reached, you watched, you listened. What is the information that you need? What is it that you take in and you consider? Well,
I think it has a lot to do with, what is the immediate impact, right? So what will we achieve? What will our feeling be about living here? How will you feel when you're walking downtown? But then also, can we sustain it? Can we achieve something better and then continue to be able to have it? One of the things I'm always concerned about is, are we making an immediate investment that in 3 years won't really bear anything, that we'll have to go back and discuss it again? And so for me, it's also about future planning, about looking at a decision that potentially is in front of us today, but can we sustain it going forward, and having the departments prove out that it is sustainable to improve that quality of life.
Well, sustainability is indeed a very big part of all of it.
Right.
So by the time the Finance Committee, which you want to serve on, receives a budget request, it's been considered by department staff, it's been considered by the town administrator, it's been considered by the elected board that it supervises the position. How do you sort all of that? Do you have sort of like mental criteria that goes through your head about what matters? I mean, you've talked a lot about the quality of life, so I'm going to assume that's in there somewhere.
Right. I think for me, as someone who was a public employee, so as the executive director of the Medway Housing Authority, I was hired for my expertise and my skill set. And I think it's really important for us to honor the budgets that our department heads put forward, because these are individuals that have been hired for their skill set. They've been given a budget guideline, and primarily, most of them, if not very close to all of them, are staying within the budget guideline that's been requested of them. So we can certainly, ask them about their travel and their staff training. But at the end of the day, these are individuals that have been charged with their expertise to manage a department. And so for me, it really is about listening to those department managers and seeing where they feel like those funds are best spent.
Okay. Are there any changes that you would recommend making in town government, the way it operates?
I think for me, it's been eye-opening in the last, 2 years to see the amount of information that's been coming out of the town administrator's office. I think as someone who was trying to become engaged in earlier years, it was more difficult for me. And I think that, since the new town administrator, I don't know if he's new anymore, but newer has come on, online, the information, even his presentations, as someone who makes presentations to boards a lot, I think it's important to make sure that we're putting out information that's easily digested and understood, and I think that he's done a really good job of that. And so my hope is that continues with his stewardship overall with the town. And then I think for me, from a process standpoint, with the Finance Committee, again, if we have budgets that are coming before us that are falling within the guidelines, what I would like to do is make sure that those reviews are efficient and we actually have time maybe even to talk to these department heads about what they're not doing. What are we, as a town, what are we not doing in your department administratively, operationally, because you're honoring the budget guidelines and you're falling within them, but what are we missing out on? And I think that's an interesting conversation to have.
Okay. All right. Wow, we're really whipping through these.
Oh. Sorry.
Talk about efficiency. You've proved your point.
Okay.
All right. So you basically have 2 minutes to, say, well, you've got more than 2 minutes, as a matter of fact. You can take as much time as you want now.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come here today and introduce myself to you and to the viewers and the voters here in Holliston. As I mentioned, I've been here since 2011 and have spent my time trying to find ways to participate in the community. And up until now, those ways have been probably places that either directly impact my family or my work. And I feel like I'm at the point where I'm ready to participate in a way that's larger than just my family and really participate in the community. And I feel like the Finance Committee is that place for me based on my skill set and my interests. I think that I could bring a fresh set of eyes and a new perspective to the Finance Committee. And I would hope for people to consider me, and I would appreciate their vote on May 24th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you very much. Good luck to you, Hayley.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for watching Just Thinking. You've done your homework, so please remember to vote on May 24th. It's important for you, your family, and the community. Thank you.